Hey everyone, welcome back to HelloPrenup's YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Valle, legal content writer here at HelloPrenup, and today we're diving into a fascinating topic around polyamory and domestic relationships, and specifically the legal side of it all. So the big question that we're diving into today is, can you make polyamorous relationships official in the eyes of the law with a domestic partnership? And where do prenups fit into all of this? So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What is polyamory? So polyamory is a non-traditional way of engaging in relationships that basically includes more than just a couple. So the big thing to keep in mind here is that it's not cheating, it is completely consensual. And some call it a throuple, but it essentially involves just any relationship between more than just two people, and it can involve any sort of gender combination. Okay, now what about domestic partnerships? Domestic partnership is an actual legal status for couples who simply don't want to get married or who cannot get married so that they can have specific rights and legal recognition of their relationship. Now, before same-sex marriage was legalized in the United States in 2015, domestic partnerships were a lot more common and widely available. In the wake of the legalization of same-sex marriage in the United States, domestic partnerships have become less available and less recognized, mostly because now marriage is the primary option for most couples. Nowadays, a few states still allow for domestic partnerships. Depending on where you live, a domestic partnership may allow for certain benefits, such as healthcare access, inheritance rights, and decision-making power for your partner. Okay, next up, polyamory and domestic partnerships. How do they work together? Okay, so let's merge these two concepts together. Can you make your polyamorous relationship legal through a domestic partnership? Well, in most of the US, no, you cannot. But here's the kicker. There's an exception. In two cities in Massachusetts, Somerville and Cambridge, you can register your polyamorous relationship as a domestic partnership. This groundbreaking legal change came and sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic and the need for people to ultimately gain healthcare access even if they're not married. Okay, so let's explore. How does polyamory and domestic relationships work in Somerville? Now, it's important to note that these ordinances are local, they are not state, and they are not federal. So let's start with Somerville. Okay, so in Somerville, the only guaranteed right is having to do with children at school. So this allows either of the partners in the partnership to access things like school records, school pickup, etc. Okay, so here are the rights that might be allowed, and they include employee benefits, travel issues, and hospital visitation. However, it is going to depend on the entity. So, for example, some employers are not legally required to provide benefits to domestic partners, so they may not do so, even though Somerville allows it. So a school may be limited if the school, for example, is located outside of Somerville, and it may vary depending on the school's specific policy. However, keep in mind that taxes, immigration status, and any federal benefit are completely off the table for polyamorous relationships, even in Somerville. So in Cambridge, things are quite similar. The rights you get are primarily specific and limited to the city, including hospital visitation, correctional facility visits, school access, and non-discrimination rights. Employee benefits and travel rights may vary, and forget about taxes, forget about immigration status, forget about any federal benefit, because there is no entitlement there when it comes to domestic partnerships. Okay, next, bigamy laws and polyamorous domestic partnerships. Okay, so you may be wondering, what about bigamy laws? Isn't this illegal? How can Somerville and Cambridge allow for this? So let's back up for a minute. Bigamy is a law that states that you cannot marry multiple people. Emphasis on the word marry. However, there are some states that have extended their bigamy laws to domestic partnerships. Two of those states are California and the District of Columbia, and they actually have pretty strict laws against them. So let's dive in. First, California. In California, Penal Code Section 284 It says that anyone who enters into a marriage or a domestic partnership with someone who's already married or in a domestic partnership has committed a felony, which could be punishable by a fine of $5,000 or imprisonment. Now, the same thing goes for the District of Columbia. Section 22501 in the Code of the District of Columbia states that you cannot enter a domestic partnership if you've already in one or if you're in a marriage. If you do, you will be guilty of bigamy and will be imprisoned for 2 to 7 years. So, the good news is that Massachusetts anti-bigamy law does not extend to domestic partnerships, hence why they are able to do this local ordinance and allow for this. Okay, so let's get back to the topic of prenups. Can I ultimately get a prenup for my domestic partnership? The answer is no. Almost all states do not allow for a prenup for domestic partnerships. Keep in mind that generally speaking, a prenup really is only effective upon marriage. So, are there any alternatives? Well, you could have a cohabitation agreement. A cohabitation agreement is basically just a contract between two people that live together. Now, some states may not recognize this, but it's definitely worth a shot, and it's worth talking to a lawyer in your specific state, in your specific area to find out. So in conclusion, polyamory and domestic partnerships are still on a long journey in terms of legalization here in the US. But there are 2 cities, Somerville and Cambridge, that have paved the way with very limited legal protections. We are definitely in uncharted territory here, and there is probably going to be a lot of development in this topic over the next couple of years. So thanks for joining me again on another video here on HelloPrenup's YouTube channel. I'm Andrea, and if you like this sort of content, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and more importantly, leave in the comments the type of questions that you have around prenups, domestic partnerships, and just marriage as a whole. We'd love to hear from you and make sure that we cater these topics to you. See you next time.